I'm Brooke with the Nail Pawlor, and today we're going to be talking about how to brush your doodle. These are the two brushes that you will want for brushing your doodle. This is a slicker brush. As you can see, the teeth are curved and they're not too soft, but they're not too hard. That will help make sure that you are getting through any mats or really thick coat. The next brush that you'll want is a metal toothed comb, and this will be checking your work to make sure that there is no mats in their coat. And if the dog does have any mats, just any type of regular cornstarch or detangler, leave-in spray will work. I'm a big fan of the cornstarch just because it seems to work a lot better than the really expensive leave-in conditioners. This is Grizzly. He's an F1B Goldendoodle who is 4 years old, and as you can see, he's got that pretty poodle-y type coat, tight curls, really thick, that requires a lot of brushing. What I like to do is start from the same spot each time I'm going to start brushing the dog. I usually pick a back leg, and you will start by parting the hair to where you can see the skin and starting to brush layer by layer with the slicker brush first. And you are going to work your way up the leg. You're going to see the curls starting to loosen and stretch out. Once you've finished slicker brushing the back leg, then you're going to take a metal toothed comb to check your work. You want to start with the slicker brush because it is going to separate the hair so that you can see what is matted and what is just tightly curled. It will also loosen up any kind of sticks or leaves or dirt that's gotten caught in their coat. Something that we see a lot of is doodle owners bringing in their dogs saying that they're brushing them daily when the dog is pelted down to the skin. And the reason is because they're taking a brush and they're just going like this. Well, that's not getting down to the skin. The top coat might look brushed out, but down to the skin can be matted. So you need to be able to make sure that if you can't get a metal toothed comb through that coat, see how this is stopping with Grizzly, then the groomer can't do the haircut that you're wanting because it's tangled. As a groomer, I have always believed in humanity over vanity, and what that means is that if your groomer is telling you that it is in the best interest of the dog to be shaved down because the mats have gotten out of control and they've attempted to do the brushing and if the dog is in pain, then I suggest going ahead and listening to your groomer and getting the dog shaved down and then starting over fresh. That way the dog isn't going to have a negative association with the groomers. They're not going to be on the table for 6 or 7 hours being brushed out. You're not going to have a $400 grooming bill, and the dog can start over fresh and you can keep working on that fluffy coat. Another spot that you want to pay close attention to is right up here in the dog's armpit. When they get really long hair, it is rubbing up against it and it can create pretty big mats in there. As a groomer, I always made sure to kind of shave that spot out so that it created a little bit less work for the owner. But even in between grooms, you still want to make sure you're brushing that out. So you're going to pull the dog's leg out to a comfortable spot. You can kind of grip it like that, and you're going to start brushing down towards his belly. And you want to be careful because this is a spot that is pretty sensitive and can get nicked or cut by a brush just because there's a lot of loose skin. Like this one. If your doodle has a fluffier coat, then you want to try and avoid bathing at home, but if you must bathe at home, then I recommend having the dog fully brushed out prior to the bath using this process that I'm doing now to prevent any mats, because if there's a mat that's in the coat and it gets wet, then it's going to tighten and it's going to make it even more painful for the dog, and it's going to make it harder to brush out later on. So go ahead and brush the dog prior to the bath, and then once they're dry, go ahead and brush them again to loosen up any mats that may have occurred while bathing them. When you're brushing the paws. You want to make sure that there's no mats in between their toes. If there are, then I would recommend a trip to the groomer. Some will do it as an a la carte service, or you may need to book them in for a bath and they can just trim up the bottoms of their feet to get out any of those mats, because it can make it painful when they're walking. It's kind of like having a rock stuck in your shoe and trying to walk around all day like that. Another important part with the feet is that you want to make sure that you're okay, Grizzly. Getting any mats out in between the toes. If you aren't, then your doodle may come home with poodle feet, because the groomers may have to shave in between the toes to get that out, because it is a very sensitive part for the dog. You're okay, Grizzly. As you can see, Grizzly is not a fan of his feet being handled. So if there were to be mats in between his toes, then it would be a very uncomfortable, very stressful situation for him. Can I have that? Thank you. And if there's some mats that aren't brushing out, you can also use some cornstarch. This is a great dematting trick. It's gonna kind of create a mess. And then you're gonna take your slicker brush and you're gonna keep brushing. That is going to help any mats kind of slip out. And then go back through with your comb. See how much nicer that comb is going through those feet? There's no trying to bite, and he's feeling pretty comfortable with that. So once we've brushed out the body, then we want to move to the head. So you're going to do the same thing, slicker brush through this area. So there's certain spots that you're going to want to pay really close attention to, and those spots are behind the ears. They tend to get pretty large mats back here. So make sure that there's no mats going on. If there is, you can either keep working or you can add in some cornstarch. And as a doodle owner, brushing is a time-consuming process, and so you need to decide if having a really long coat is something that you desire, because it will take a lot of time and it is very time-consuming. With the ears, it's the same process. You are going to take the slicker brush and part and go layer by layer, but you want to pay special attention to their ears. One, they mat up easier. If you've got them long and they're kind of dipping into their water bowls, that can make them mat up really easily. You also want to be careful while brushing, because it is easy to nick their ears with a comb. So you're going to pull the hair up and brush layer by layer until you can get through the dog's entire ear, which we've already partially brushed out this ear. And then you're going to flip it over and do the same thing with your comb on the inside, going around the ear leather. Now when it comes to brushing your dog's beard and chin, you want to be very careful. It's a sensitive area, and you're just going to pull the hair up and continue to brush. This is another spot that mats up easily, because again, you're kind of petting and scratching and loving on their cute faces, and they are also drinking water that can cause the mats to tighten. And when you go to do their mustache, so this hair kind of right around here, you can actually hold onto their chin. Not tight, but you're kind of just steadying their face, and that will make it a little bit easier so that they're not kind of moving their head around a whole lot. And that is something that you will want to teach your dog how to become comfortable with. It will make trips to the groomer much less stressful if they are used to having their head kind of handled and them holding still. Because if you have a dog kind of moving their head around a whole lot for the groomer, it increases the risk of injury. As you can see, Grizzly's pretty used to this. His owner started him with his grooming at 14 weeks old and has kept him on a 6-week schedule with the same groomer, so he is comfortable with the process. It's important to stay with the same groomer if you have a good working relationship with them, so that the dog becomes comfortable with her or him and can start to look forward to the process. If they are bouncing around from shop to shop, or even from groomer to groomer, because some shops do kind of give the dogs to whoever is available. If you go to a shop that has a lot of groomers, you can actually request a groomer if you had a really good haircut one time, and just let them know to keep it on file that you only want to book with that certain groomer so that the dog can become comfortable with them and with their grooming technique, because each groomer is going to do something a little bit differently. So find somebody that your dog enjoys and that you enjoy the way the dog comes home looking. So when you start brushing the tail, you're going to lift the tail up about here, and you are going to brush in a downward motion with your slicker brush. Loosen up any of those tight curls or any tangles. And if the dog goes to sit, you can either let them sit or kind of just stand them back up. And you're going to want to brush from both sides of the tail. Paying special attention also to the base of the tail. That's somewhere where a lot of dogs tend to chew, and underneath the tail. Again, making sure that you can see down to the skin. Alright guys, I hope that was helpful. If you have any make sure to like and subscribe to our channel, and if you have any other topics that you would like covered, leave a comment and I will try to get to them. Thank you.